Okay, this is it. I can't really see myself that well without my glasses, but I look like I'm all right.
All right. Look, this is Ian Trottier for Discussions of Truth, and we have standing by Peter Ticktin. He is a former. Peter is a former classmate of Donald Trump's, and this goes back to New York Military Academy. He's standing by. We're going to do a Zoom with him, a Zoom meeting with him, and bring that to you momentarily. Next week, folks, Tom Harton will be joining us. It'll be the third time that Tom has joined Discussions of Truth, folks. Please go to iantrottier.com. Go to my articles tab, and there you will find a very in-depth listing of various publications that I find instrumental for you to understanding, again, what is controlling the economics behind the deep state that Donald Trump talks about. Let me actually run a sound clip that you might enjoy here. Donald Trump coming your way here. Listen to this.
Something you shouldn't have. What was that? Is that a dog? It's Hillary.
Get that one more time.
Something you shouldn't have. What was that? Is that a dog? It's Hillary.
So, yeah, Donald Trump is running for re-election, folks. We are in unprecedented times. It just so happens that Democratic-run cities across the country are allowing their cities to completely turn to anarchy and chaos, a la Portland, Oregon. What a disgusting, disgraceful form of governance going on there with that mayor. Little glimpse of light here. Wisconsin governor has allowed, this is recent news here, he has allowed Trump to send in federal law enforcement to squelch the violence, the rioting, the killing. How the mayors of New York, de Blasio, how Chicago, what's her name? What does she call herself? Lightfoot or Lightweight or Lightfeather, whatever she calls herself. How these mayors allow themselves to control their cities like this and jeopardize their citizens, their innocent people, and allow these BLM groups. I'm going to tell you first off right here. I'm going to tell you real quick before we bring Peter on, because I know he's standing by. I'm going to tell you right now. I personally, I think masks are ridiculous, and I'm not for vaccines. I tell you right now, the vaccine agenda is to essentially run a digital currency. That's I see this coming, folks. I see it coming. I'm taking a stand, and I'm taking a stand politically this election. I try to be bipartisan, but I'm taking a stand, and I'm telling you right now that the Biden-Harris ticket will only deepen this country into communism and socialism. I can see the writing on the wall. And this is ironic. This is ironic because and both parties are corrupt. But a once proud party that Andrew Jackson held on his shoulders, that is the Democratic Party. Yes, Andrew Jackson was Democrat. 1840 he ran on the re-election campaign to kill the banks. Yes, it also just so happens that JFK, one of the greatest patriots, in my view, of this country's existence, a very short existence, 250 years, was also a Democrat. And, ironically, Abraham Lincoln, who helped free the slaves, as if it was important to him or not, I don't know, never met him, was a Republican. So both parties go back and forth. Both parties, there's corruption. But look at 2020, and I look at what the Democratic Party is bringing to the table versus what the Republican Party brings to the table, and I do not care. I don't care where you're at. But if you're against law and order, I'm against you. If you are for destruction, dismantling your police department, I'm against you. Black Lives Matter, absolutely. Some of my best friends have been black. Some of my best friends have been Asian, Korean, Japanese, you name it. I was married to a woman that's not American. Okay, I was married to a foreigner. You name it, all lives matter. All languages matter. All religions matter. And I'll stand up for your right for that. But this BLM movement right now, I'm telling you right now, this is a terrorist organization. The BLM movement, I'm calling it out right now. It's a terrorist organization. I'm completely against it. It's not civil. It is aimed at destroying the fabrics of this country. And somehow they're in cahoots with the Antifa, from what I can see. Whether they're both funded by the George Soros foundations, I don't know. But that's my impression. That's my opinion. I'm bringing it to the table here. I started this program almost 4 years ago in Miami, in South Beach, because of the Zika virus. And what I've discovered from the Zika virus should appall you. But I have literature listed on my website, iantrottier.com. Check it out. Go into it. Look into it. Let's bring Peter Ticktin on. We're going to bring him on via Zoom right now. We're going to get this show going with Peter. Okay, I had it queued. I'm going to have to re-queue it. And again, I always start the show with Metallica, Seek and Destroy, because that's what I do. Is I aim, just like you need to be aiming, regardless of your political party. You need to aim to root out and destroy political corruption, regardless of where it exists. Bringing on Peter right now, typing in passcode. Being silent because I'm not repeating this passcode. Here we go. Let's see what we got. Okay, Ian Trottier here for Discussing the Truth. Peter Ticktin. Peter, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine, sir. Thank you for joining Discussing the Truth. I can hear you just fine, and I can see you. I don't think you can see me, but if that works for you, then that's fine. I can see you. Are you recording this, sir? I am recording on my end.
I'm not. I don't know whether...
The host has to record it, so you can ask Laura to do it.
Okay. Yeah, do you want to record that, Laura?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. This is recording. So, Peter, thank you for joining Discussion of Truth. Welcome to the program. I started the program in South Beach. Just a little history for you to understand where I'm coming from. I started because I was looking into the Zika virus and the pesticide being sprayed. From there, I've grown, and if you've had a chance to take a look at my website, I've had some very credible guests join the program. For listeners, Peter, would you please take a moment and introduce yourself? I did it very vaguely, but for a formal introduction, Peter, please introduce yourself for listeners.
Okay, great. I'm happy to. It's Peter. My name is Peter Ticktin, and I'm an attorney. I practice trial work in South Florida, and frankly, I've had cases all over the country. But the main reason I'm here is because of my book and because of my friendship with Donald Trump.
Excellent.
It was more of a high school friendship, but I would say in our senior year of high school, I was closer to him than anybody else was, because we had a working business relationship. Not so much business, but working. He was my captain, and I was the platoon sergeant of. He gave me the rank of platoon sergeant, and that's what I was for that year.
Fantastic. All right. So, and this is New York Military Academy.
Yes, exactly. Which we NYMA, or NEMA, as most of the graduates call it.
Now, you went on to study at the University of Miami Law School, and Donald went on to study at Wharton. Is that correct, or was there a stop in between for the both of you?
There was a stop between. I went to the University of Western Ontario in London, Ontario, Canada, and he went to Fordham College.
And he went to
Fordham. This
Fordham.
whole thing that Mary Trump is crazy, where she says somebody else came in and wrote the SATs for him. I know that it didn't happen because I was in the same. We were together. There were only 100 of us in our class, and you can't. Nobody else could have gone in there and said, "Hey, I'm Donald Trump." I mean, everybody knew him. The teachers knew him, who were the proctors of the exam. There's no way it could have possibly happened. But anyway.
Yeah. No. Look, Peter. 2015, Donald had began reaching out to see what type of support he could get for a run at the candidacy. And I would go to Doral. I would go to the golf course there, and I'd listen to him speak. And initially, Peter, he was running as an independent. Now I know his history. Seemingly, he's been with both parties. I think he's been a Democrat at one point in time. But during these initial rallies, in 2015, I believe late spring, early summer there at Doral. He was an independent, and let me tell you something, Peter. That's what attracted me to Mr. Trump initially, was that he was basically pointing the finger at both of the parties and putting them both accountable for the ridiculous corruption that's running rampant in Washington. Further on, after a few months, he began getting so much backing and support nationally that he sided with the Democratic Party. At least that's my that's my recollection. Do you want to make some comments? You're talking about Mary Trump attacking him, and the reason I'm saying this, Peter, is because he seems to be that independent thinking non-politician that this country has starved for, to stand up for the people, to stand up for the corporations, bring jobs back to America. And I don't think politicians have had the grunt, they haven't had the bravery, if you will, to do that. And I believe Donald Trump has done that. Whether he's being pulled by strings economically above him, that's another thing. But talk a little bit, and that's why I believe he's being hit and attacked on so many different levels, even from within his family, Mary Trump, i.e. But if you want to talk about that a little bit, Peter, and talk about the man that you know politically and what he stands for as being a friend of his.
I'm happy to. I love the way you phrased everything you said, because that's the way I see it entirely. And even at age 17, he had not only leadership ability, but leadership ability that I emulated at that point, and it made me a better businessman. I know I'm a lawyer, but I've got a law firm, and I've got a whole mess of lawyers here and staff and so on. It's a business as well, and I run this place very much the way he ran Company A. He's still the same person. Most people look at him and they see the man that he is. But the same as any parent of young children who have grown up, I should say, grown children, see their children as the little ones that they once were as well. I see Donald as that 17-year-old that we were that I was very close to.
Yeah,
as my captain. But you mentioned that he's brave, and in a sense, I don't know whether it's bravery, or I usually call it an absence of fear. And by that, I mean, that kind of fear that people, oh my God, what if I do this? Somebody won't like me. Somebody's going to, what ramifications? They don't even know what ramifications. They're just afraid to do anything. We haven't had a president with the guts to be able to move the embassy to Jerusalem until Donald Trump. And it's not that it's so much guts. It's just that he's not stymied by fearful thinking in terms of making his decisions. So what you were saying is true, and it all stems, and I do explain how this process worked at New York Military Academy, but it all stems from back then. So it's nice to see that you're recognizing that as well, that it's a lack of fear, that he has the guts to do what needs to get done.
Let's get to yeah, go ahead.
And you were mentioning an absence of this kind of mentality, and you're absolutely right on that too. I haven't seen this kind of, well, I guess it was Ronald Reagan, but most of the leaders that we've had in between are just so wishy-washy. It's like they think they ran for president of their class in high school, where they sit in a seat and they just look good and they have something good to put on an application. No, running this country it's been nothing for Donald Trump other than catch up for the time that he's been in.
And Peter, you remain close to Donald. Are you a current friend of his? Do you communicate with Donald on a regular basis?
I see him from time to time, and we never sit down and talk like how is everything in Afghanistan. It's not that kind of relationship.
Yeah,
it's kind of if you went to see an old classmate that you were very close to. Sure. In your high school class, senior class, and then so it's a very good feeling between us. And for reasons that are in my book, I'll tell you something. There's a reason I'm such a good supporter of his. He's just because the kind of guy that he is. And it's just amazing that people call him a bully. I got to tell you, if anybody's ever going to be a bully, it's when they're 17. They're going to be a bully when they're the captain of a company and people have to do what he said. They're going to be a bully when they're a jock and stronger and bigger than the other people in their company. Yeah. And I can tell you that Donald Trump, it's not that he was rarely a bully or he hardly ever bullied anybody. It never happened. And because of the kind of leadership that he emulated or put off that I emulate, uh, because of the leadership that he had, the rest of the people in the company didn't get into the kind of hazing that was going on in the rest of the school.
Yeah, I'll tell you who I think is a bully. 2 days ago, Nancy Pelosi is calling Trump and those who support him in Congress, and frankly, those who support him in general, enemies of the state. This is absolutely ridiculous. Hearing that from a politician, any politician, but somebody of the level of Nancy Pelosi. This is getting disgusting. It's getting nasty. And I try to stay bipartisan. I try to stay bipartisan, Peter, and I try to, because I frankly I see the corruption in both parties. But that's kind of what had drawn my attention to Trump initially as he began seeking out a possible run at presidency, was that he was initially an independent, and he's done. Thank goodness, he's done some great things. And today he's now offered to pull in the federal troops into Wisconsin and squelch what's going on there. Another bully. Speaking of that, and I want to get your opinion here, but another bully in my mind would be Ted Wheeler. He's the Democratic mayor of Portland, and he's let his city just burn. And he's let anarchy ensue. This is disgusting. We're looking at Portland, we're looking at Seattle, we're looking at Chicago, we're looking at New York, and all four of those democratically run countries or cities have allowed their cities to crash. New York, a very proud place, and I know this is hard for a lot of New Yorkers to see what De Blasio has done. A man, by the way, who was married, I understand, and that is not his name, De Blasio. I'd have to look it up, but he's changed his name. He is a known American politician with socialistic ties. So where do you stand politically, Peter? Did you vote for Donald in 2016? I'm assuming you did, or will you be re-voting for him?
I can't imagine voting for anybody other than Donald Trump.
Good.
You and I are in sync. I never talked before, but it's like you're my brother in terms of everything you're saying. Nancy Pelosi, but I have to say, when you think about things, these people, the expression I gave them, the whole 9 yards, that comes from 9 yards of a belt of bullets that they used in the machine guns of World War II, 268 bullets in all those yards. That's giving somebody the full 9 yards. And these people are giving Donald the full 9 yards. Last time we had an election, they kind of thought they had it made. So they gave their efforts, but they didn't give their full efforts. This time, everyone is giving everything against us that they possibly can. Whether it's Pelosi and this thing she says he's an enemy of the state. Well, this of the people or an enemy of the state. This is a disgusting thing to say, but it's nothing in comparison to what she attempted to do with the impeachment. It's nothing in comparison to everything else that they've done in terms of stymieing and using the government just to fight this man. It's just amazing what she does. And how she gets away with it, and her cronies with her.
Yeah.
Look at China.
Yep.
They waited until the impeachment looked like it was not going to go through, and then, all of a sudden the Wuhan virus is hitting us. Did they release it intentionally as a weapon of war? I don't know that we'll ever know. But did they direct that weapon of war to the United States? Did a missile go off by mistake with a nuclear warhead, and did they then say, well, let's direct it to the United States? That's what happened here. They used a biological weapon of war to hit us just to get rid of Donald Trump. And it's not because they don't like Donald Trump. It's because Donald Trump is ruining their economy. It could lead to people starving there. It could lead to a complete change of government by revolution. What we're doing in China and have done to them economically has other repercussions. And I expect that we're going to basically get our reciprocation, not in the form of killing a bunch of innocent Chinese the way they killed a bunch of innocent Americans, but by a bunch. I'm talking about almost 200,000 by the time this is over. I mean, this is just horrible what happened to us. But this is what these people are doing. Anything to get rid of Donald Trump, because China needs to get back to the point that they can take about $500 billion a year in terms of unequal trade. That's what supported them. That's what built them. That's what put in their super highways. That's what happened. Out of our money, we built China. And that's stopping, and it's stopping quickly.
Glad you said that.
The faster it stops, the more desperate they're going to be. And we are in a state of war with China now, whether anybody knows it or not. Donald Trump's too smart to think, hey, let's kill a bunch of innocent Chinese in retribution, because he's not going to do that. He's too smart for that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. And, speaking of an enemy of the state, the first thing that came to my mind, Pelosi wants to call Donald Trump an enemy of the state. Well, what maybe some of my listeners know, what most people don't know when I speak to it, is that, and again, I see corruption in both parties, is that Prescott Bush, for instance, who was a president of the Union Bank in the 1940s, he allowed funding to go into the Hitler regime, while also funding through Union Bank and Brown Brothers Harriman. That's basically Wall Street, funding both sides of the conflict there in World War II. That would be an enemy of the state, and in fact, Union Bank was tried in Congress for that, for supporting the enemy. But some of this rhetoric is a little out of hand. As far as I'm concerned, you're talking about building China, and the Rockefeller Foundation has been building the Chinese health industry since 1913. That's over 100 years. So I think what I'd like to see personally, Peter, is I'd like to see Donald go after some of the hidden banking strings that run Washington through institutions like the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations in Manhattan, and the Trilateral Commission that was initiated by David Rockefeller, who, rest his soul, passed away a couple years ago now. But I'd like to see Donald hit some of these banking organizations a little bit harder and give some of that power back to Congress. But I see, Peter, you're not wearing a mask. We're looking at right now an unprecedented time across the country. We're looking at some of these fights. Australia is ridiculous. These people are being arrested for not wearing masks. Where do you fall? I know DeSantis has not mandated masks, but some of these governors and Donald has kind of left that liberty up to the various governors across the country. Where do you fall in regards to this mask mandate, which a lot of people are arguing, hey, if you're going to mandate a mask, then you're going to mandate a vaccine. How do you see that unfolding? Where do you stand in that regard, Peter?
I love my liberty. At the same time, if masks really helped, it would be a different story. I go along with the law. If I have to put a mask on in order to walk into a restaurant, as silly as it might be, if it makes other people more comfortable, I'm not so opposed to it. At the same time, Biden wants us to wear masks for the next 3 months. Well,
correct.
The numbers are falling radically in Florida at this point in terms of the infection rate, and the new hospitalizations are really going down. I mean, we're getting to the end of this. Just like the Zika virus disappeared, just the way Donald Trump said, it's just going to disappear. It is just going to disappear. And I got news for you. It's probably going to be before the election. It's probably going to be within about a month, because I'm watching these trends. I predicted what was going to be happening to my office, to my staff. We practice very safe behavior here. We're all 6 feet apart, at least. Nobody goes into anybody else's office. Any meeting has to be out in the open. We haven't been wearing masks. And we had one person come in for 3 days who was infected with the Wuhan virus. And she didn't tell anybody. She had a bad fever, headaches, and so on. For 3 days, she sat in this office among other people. But because of the precautions we take, no masks. And because of the precautions we take, not one person was infected by that lady. By the way, I did let her go on the basis of stupidity. The reason for dismissal was for reckless disregard for life.
Good for you.
So
good for you. Two weeks ago, Peter, we were joined by, and I've put this. I put him now in touch with Adrian. I believe not to leave that, put that on the air, but. I think you know who I'm talking about. Ian Smith is a co-owner of Attilas Gym in Belmar, New Jersey, and he's been fighting that governor's mandate to keep his livelihood in track, to keep his gym open. And he's fought, and they've been fined. He's been arrested. He's refusing to shut down. And when he joined me 2 Wednesdays ago, he was on this program. And the next day, he got word from Dan Bongino. I'm sure you're familiar with Dan Bongino. He got word from Dan Bongino. Dan flew up to visit him that Friday, and now he's got the support of Dan Bongino as far as getting his business open. You mentioned that this is likely going to disappear. You mentioned that like the Zika virus is just going to disappear. Donald mentioned that it's just going to disappear. You mentioned and you alluded, unless I read you wrong, you alluded that this is a biological weapon, perhaps, that was released by China, whether it was the Chinese or not, but it seems to certainly be an attack on the middle class, which Donald Trump had really flourishing, didn't he? I mean, he had really got the economics going on a nice cycle in this country. Then the impeachment came. Then this virus came. Is it coincidence in your view, or is it definitely an attack? And if it's an attack, is it an attack on the middle class? Is it an attack on what really separates Americans from the rest of the world and our country, what makes us great, in that we have a strong, well, not currently, but we typically have a strong, thriving middle class? Well, what's your opinion on that?
Okay, I think we still have a strong middle class. It's
Good.
just been momentarily interrupted. Basically what that V that Donald talks about is absolutely a real V from a financial point of view. You can see everything popping back and coming back. The economy is going to be extremely vibrant, and it's happening fast. That's the thing. It's not going to take very long before this all happens. In terms of the virus disappearing, as they do, I mean, there was only one reported case of Zika in the United States in 2020, and we're 2/3 the way through the year. So that's gone. But it goes away like a bad headache. You know when you have the headache, but after the headache goes away, you realize later, oh, geez, I didn't even realize it went. It's gone. That's what happened to Zika. That's what's going to happen to this. And I'm hoping that it's gone by the time the election comes about, because these Democrats are all saying, oh, Donald Trump said it was going to just disappear. Well, guess what? It is going to just disappear. That's what viruses do.
Yep. Let's get
I
your.
left out a year of medical school where I studied epidemiology, so I kind of know a little bit about what I'm talking about.
Okay, so all right, yes, that's good. Where'd you study medical school?
That was up in the University of Western Ontario.
Okay, are you Canadian? You just studied there?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm a Canadian. Well, my father was Canadian. My mother was American. I'm American in heart. I love this country. I mean, I do. I would do what's required for this country.
I've had on the program Paul Hellyer. Are you familiar with that Canadian politician Paul Hellyer? I think he's about 96 or 97 now.
I would imagine he is. Yeah, I know the name, but I've really been down here most of my life.
Okay.
And I'm an American. So
I want to get into your Peter. I want to get into your book, and I want you to talk about that a little bit for listeners, so we can get out and get that book from you, buy that book from you. But what's the biggest distinction that you see leading up, prior to talking about your book, prior to getting into your book? What's the biggest distinction that you see between the Democratic and Republican Party leading up to this election in November? For those that are kind of sitting on the fence, perhaps, or for those that are willing to listen, and you would draw them in. Go ahead.
This is a great question, because this is the most important thing I think I have to say in terms of all of this. It's no longer Democrats versus Republicans or the other way around. It's really Donald Trump and his mentality versus chaos. When we look at this thing, I mean, just think, right? Forget all the political talk and everything else. Just think about the craziness on the other side. How can the craziness spread between people? How can it be? Like, if I were to say to people now, hey, it's a good idea to put some lead into our drinking water, I mean, everybody would say that's nuts. Well, let me tell you, 5 years ago, if anybody were to say, hey, it's a good idea to get rid of all the borders, people would say that's nuts. If anybody were to say, hey, let's give free medical care to all of the illegal immigrants, people would say, are you crazy? Not just because it would cost us $1 trillion, but forget that. who in Nicaragua with a terminal tumor isn't coming here to get free medical treatment if we're offering it out? There's a push and a pull. There's already enough pushing because people in Nicaragua aren't necessarily enjoying the bullets whizzing by their heads. Those aren't really good places to live anymore. So there's a pushing those people there. And now we're going to give a pull. We're going to say, hey, when you get here, guess what? Free medical care, free welfare, come on up. Who in the world's going to stay in Nicaragua? If we take this world, we're 4% of the world's population. If we all of a sudden decide we're going to get rid of our borders and equalize, it's not going to bring 96% of the population up. It's going to bring this 4% down. We're going to just destroy everything that we have. If I have a farm that's got 10,000 acres in it, or 1,000 acres in it, I've got a farm. Put 10,000 people sitting on my farm, I have got nothing. Okay? It just doesn't make any sense. There's something mentally ill in somebody believing that what we should do is eradicate our borders. That's the point. I'm not making the point that we should have borders. We know this. My point is there's something crazy going on. How can these people be suggesting and pushing for these values and these ideas? How can anybody suggest that we defund the police and get rid of the police? It's a crazy idea. It's lead in our drinking water as being a good idea is a crazy idea. It's as crazy as that. So I don't think that this is so much Democrat versus Republican. This is lunacy versus Donald Trump and his administration and his way of thinking, which is somebody said the other day that one of the Democrats said that Donald Trump is living in an alternate reality. And they're right. We're living in an alternate reality. Only ours is the one that makes sense. Ours is real, and that's the difference. And all these critical issues, it's craziness we're hearing. There's no way in the world that socialism works. There's no way in the world we should destroy the United States and allow it to be communist. So for what? For why? Why would we do that? It doesn't make any sense at all. The economy is coming back. We're going to see that Donald's going to do really well. I can almost promise it's going to happen. I'm worried a little bit about the mail ballots, but I do think that even with that, I think we're going to be able to do well. Except we're going to need everybody to get out and vote. If you're a silent member of the majority, you're blowing it. You have a duty. Right. You have to get out to vote. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is insanity. It really is, and let's look at another angle here. You're talking about the socialistic regime or the communistic regime that the Biden-Harris ticket implies, and we're looking at that because it's going to be an extension of the Obama years, and as much as I think he's a wonderful diplomat and a good solid human being, there were too many policies that I did not agree with in regards to how to run this country and what this country was built on, and why this country was built in the first place, and that was escaping a monarchy and the tyranny involved in a centralized banking system. And we're just seeing those roots start to flourish again. Through Clinton and Obama and what the Biden-Harris ticket would bring to the party. So very
He's not a good guy. Biden's a criminal. Biden. Just look at what his son, has done. You cannot take money from the Ukraine or have your son do it to sell its influence and consider yourself a good guy. You can't, like I'm surprised when I see Donna Brazile on Fox. She got fired from CNN because she gave the questions for the debate to Hillary Clinton. That was against Bernie Sanders, so maybe we don't care about that race. But how can a person who does something that despicable ever be given a second chance the way she has? I mean, there's too many decent, honest people that deserve a chance. She should be branded for life, the same as all these people. I can't accept that Biden's actually a good guy. He may have a decent persona that he puts on, a good mask, but he's a bad guy. Anybody who's a criminal, anybody who's using their office to peddle their influence is not a good guy.
Yeah, and he will take away and he will fight to take away that Second Amendment. Surprising to see the Ninth Circuit Court in San Francisco overturn a California law that aimed to ban clips. I think it was clips that held more than 10 bullets. That was overturned, I believe, last week. That California law by the Ninth Circuit Court in San Francisco, right? A very, very liberally leaning city.
Yeah, they get three. I think they're in Sacramento. They get three courts. They get. I'm not sure. This would have been where the ninth sits. They might have. I'm not sure exactly where they sit, but I believe, are for Washington or Oregon and California.
Right.
But they've had some appointments made in the Trump administration in that court to help straighten it out, because it was the one that was so far to the left that it was.
I see.
This kind of decision would be extremely difficult to even believe before.
Good note. It looks like we'll be ending here. We got a few more minutes to see if we can push this up to the hour. But
talk about my book.
Huh?
Let me talk about my book.
Yeah, talk about your book. Exactly.
Yeah, it's called "What Makes Trump Tick," and it's a fun book to read. I promise you. In fact, I guarantee I'll pay you back. Any of your audience who buys the book, I'll pay them back the cost of the book if they don't laugh out loud at least once while they're reading this. It's a good, fun read, and it's very insightful. It tells you a number of things about Donald Trump. You know what? I could have lied about this thing, by the way. I hope you realize that. I could be right now the most famous man in America because I could have made up some story about something that happened in the showers or whatever. But nothing ever happened like that. We were all, decent people, and Donald Trump just happens to be one of the most decent human beings I've ever met or ever known. And he is what he is. Look, I got to tell you something. I like to think I'm a smart guy, but you know what? I didn't make $1 billion in my life. I like to think I'm a smart guy, but
okay.
Look at Donald Trump. What an amazing man this man is from the get-go. Even
Peter,
when he was 7.
Peter, were you surprised that when he ran for president?
No, not at all, because he was thinking about it for many years, and he, in fact, I remember a whole bunch of people came down against him. I'm not sure of the year, but at one point where he said he was thinking about it, and the Palm Beach Post actually accepted a letter from me that, indicated that these people were just envious at that point, which is what I thought. Now I realize there's much, much more to it. These people aren't just rebelling against Donald Trump because they don't like Donald Trump. They have very strong vested interests. They are afraid of what's going to happen if he wins this election.
Yeah.
We need to let him win this election. We need to let him finish the job that he started.
Right.
Because that's going to save this country. And if we don't, I'm not going to even talk to you in the next election, because it won't make any difference. Yeah. We will never get another chance to fix it. It'll be gone.
I
believe that.
Peter, lastly, I want to get your view on censorship. Why is it that Silicon Valley is so far left leaning?
It's almost surprising that they are, but I don't know. Not being left leaning, I can't quite get my.
Okay, we have ended with Peter Ticktin. You got his book. The Ticktin Law Group is the website. You can find. Again, Peter Ticktin attended the New York Military Academy, and as you said it, he was at school there with Donald Trump. He did a year of medical school. I did not know that. Did his law school. He got a school in. Western Ontario, in London, Ontario, and the University of Miami Law School, Juris Doctorate, of course. And he resides. He's there in Florida. I can get into a little bit more. You can find his bio on. I believe it's up on my website, iantrottier.com. Look, next week we'll be bringing back onto the program. Tom Hartman. Murtaza Hussain, reporter for The Intercept, CNN, BBC, MSNBC appearances. We were supposed to bring him on last, was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, last week I did a solo show. I like to do that once in a while. Folks, I've had some incredible guests on the program. If this is your first time listening to me, I strongly urge you to look at the discussions that I put together in the past few years for you. And again, it all started with the Zika virus in Miami. And I lead a lot of people to ask me where I got to where where I got to where I am. Anthony Sutton is a guy that really took me down the road that I've gone down. He's a former Stanford Hoover fellow, taught at Stanford, gave a 1972 Miami Beach talk where he exposed some of the things that I ran over with Peter there in regards to Prescott Bush. Folks, this is not about Democrat Party. This is not about Republican Party. Both parties are completely and totally washed and corrupted. I frankly believe that if Donald Trump had maintained his independent status, he probably would have won the presidency. But he did agree to join and run on the Republican ticket. And so, therefore, without having had him on the program, I am questioning whether these economic strings that might be pulling him are indeed pulling him. You throw around names like the Rockefellers, you throw around names like the Rothschild. This is not fairy tale like pie in the sky type concepts. Theories. This is truth. George Washington owned shares. And I'm going to tell you something. George Washington owned shares. This is out of a study of Harvard. I have it on my website. George Washington owned shares in the Bank of England during the American Revolution. Yes, your first president of the Union that we have today owned shares. In the bank. The Bank of England, and this is a former guest on my program, actually from Canada. They would like to get through. I'm not going to bring him on. I'm not going to bring him on. He's not scheduled, but I'll call him back. So, what is George Washington doing, owning shares of the Bank of England during a war with the enemy? Well, because the Bank of England is not English, folks. Just like the Federal Reserve is not federal. These are private banks, sovereign banks. The Bank of England is majority controlled by the Rothschild dynasty. Okay? And let me backtrack. Let me go back. You look at the United States, 250 years. Okay, that's a young country compared to England. New York is a young city compared to London, compared to Rome. We're like a preschool. Okay, these are former empires, and yes, we grew to a massive empire in such a short period of time. Okay, and you look at China. They've been around for, that's like a grandfather of civilizations. We're in preschool, if you will. 1066. London. Not Big Ben, London, not Westminster Abbey, London, not Buckingham Palace, London. London, the city of London, a small neighborhood inside of London, the financial center for the rest of metropolitan London and the UK. London was unconquered in 1066 by William of Normandy. He did not conquer London, the Corporation of London, where the Lord Mayor is housed, that has probably a chariot of 80% gold, whereas the Queen has a chariot, and I'm just throwing these numbers out there as a concept, because it's true, and I don't know if the percentages are accurate, but the concept is accurate. The Queen of England has a chariot that may be 40% gold. The Lord Mayor has the money, folks. The Lord Mayor has the money. If you're in England and listening to this, your Lord Mayor controls your London, and he is a sovereign government. He governs your Queen. He governs your Parliament. And that's where the Bank of England is housed. And the Bank of England does not represent you, England. It represents the Bank of London, or rather the Corporation of London, the City of London, which is a Roman banking institution that William the Conqueror was unable to conquer in 1066, and it stands that way to this day in 2020. So the banking system globally is fraudulent. That's my claim. The banking system globally is fraudulent, and the Federal Reserve is a fraud on the American people. It's a fraud on your Constitution. It's a fraud on your government. It's a fraud on your media. It's a fraud on your public education. And if you want sanity, if you want civil rights restored, you must destroy and abolish the Federal Reserve. It is why Abe Lincoln, 20 years after Andrew Jackson ran on the re-election campaign in 1844, 20 years after he ran on the campaign phrase to kill the banks, Andrew Jackson, the only president in 45 to leave office without a federal debt. A Democrat, for all you Democrats that may be listening to this. Andrew Jackson, a Democrat. So if you're so democratic, then stand up to kill your bank. Abe Lincoln, a Republican, was shot in the head because he tried to insert currency into the system that was backed by precious metal. Same thing JFK did. And JFK also got his head blown off. Because he wanted the American currency, the U.S. currency, backed by precious metal. Your Federal Reserve has no gold. Your U.S. Treasury has no gold. You have no precious metal backing your currency. And the next step is to further enslave you economically by implementing a digital currency. Make no mistake about it, America. I'm going to end it there. I'm going to end it there, folks. I can only do so much. But if my words resonate with you, which I hope they do, put them into action. Time is nigh. The window is closing. Your rights are disintegrating. America, stand up. I don't care what political party you belong to. Stand up for being a human being and demand your inalienable rights, no better portrayed by any other document ever written by man outside of the U.S. Constitution. Stand to that Constitution. Force your government, force the banks to adhere to those rights. IanTrache.com. Go to my articles page. There you're going to find great information that will lead you down the various road. It's the money trail. Woo, bling, bling, bling. The money trail. To anti-corruption. Next week, Tom Hartman rejoined the program. This will be his third time. This will be Tom's third time on the program. Discuss Your Truth. I'm here every Wednesday. Check my Instagram. Not always, but typically I try to shoot out a post to let you know when I'm going live. You can always find a show running if you just click the listen now. I've got it streaming. I've got various episodes streaming 24/7. Thanks for listening. Share with a friend. Be awesome, folks. Stand up for your rights. It's time. It's time for America to unite and come together to demand your freedoms stay intact. And if you are still living in fear with your mask on that the COVID-19 is going to hurt you or kill you, wake up. It's a facade. bit.ly/Zika, Zika, all capitals, Miami Beach, capital M&B, Ian Trache, Miami Beach, Zika. You type any of that in your search engine, you'll find the article that I wrote for Honey Colony after Zika came to town in Miami. Some of those things will likely open your eyes and appall you. Until next time, folks, be awesome.